Alright, welcome to video 2 of 3. Today we're going to be looking at Ultra Magnus and Blue Bolts. Alright, just taking this guy off. This, as you can see, encapsulates the original pretty darn well. We got some lovely sculpted detailing along this truck here. All sorts of nice pistons here. He does have some nice cool hydraulic detailing here for the legs of the trailer. Some nice paint work here as well. The tail lights, silver. Despite how many tires he has, all of them are pinned. And of course we have the cab, which you can see some nice beautiful chrome along the bumper here, which will of course form Omega Prime's chest, so nice they kept that chrome. Despite arriving in vehicle mode, this whole section does come separately off the box. It does just peg in here. As you can see, nice clear windows, the windshield wipers are painted, the grille is painted, the headlights are painted, even these little fog lights up top are painted. The windows on the side are painted. All of the windows here have a nice gunmetal trim. You got some nice detailing up here. Love this texture work here. And then the bottom, I mean, it's fairly clean. You can't really tell what any of this is. The only thing I would say, based on just pictures of the original, is I do miss the flat spot here where an Autobot logo would go. But otherwise, yeah, I mean, this thing's pretty darn nice. Going to functionality here, these do take a little bit of effort to pry open, but you can bring these down. And the trailer is still hollow, and they thankfully did put in a backing to these kneecaps so they're not hollow, so that the trailer has a nice ramp. And those do also have some lovely detailing in there. And you can take, the trailer doesn't fit all deluxes, but for example, something like this, a smaller deluxe, will fit. I don't have Legacy Sideburn, but you get the idea. See, it fits in there. Depending on how wide, they will slide around, but smaller deluxe will fit. It's a pretty nice hefty truck. I mean, this is obviously lighter than Optimus. Since half the truck is hollow, it makes sense. It's bound to be lighter. Nothing flimsy here. I mean, you can just grab it pretty much anywhere. This thing is just rock solid, despite completely disassembling. Rolls smoothly. Getting into some quick comparisons. We can just have comparisons with some modern legacy cars and Age of the Prime's red alert, so you can see that. And they do, of course, all nicely fit up top if you want. Bring in my extremely old RID Scourge. And just as a fun comparison, we have an old school leader class, because why not? Pretty much on par lengthwise. Now, before we delve any deeper into Ultra Magnus here, we of course need to look at Blue Bolts. Here is Blue Bolts, a original character to this Haslab. Before this, the name Blue Bolts was associated with a Beast Force character in, I believe, a comic, but for this they decided to make Ultra Magnus's gun, which was nothing more than just a gun, into a completely separate weaponizer, which I think is a pretty cool addition. To start off with, these missiles do remove. These were late additions into the campaign. They added them only from feedback. Most of this is just pretty much color blocked with plastic colors. And since it's a weaponizer, of course, you can just disassemble this. I mean, there's not too much to say on this. It's pretty much just guns. The details will be more visible in robot mode. Speaking of, transforming this, it's pretty much just like your usual weaponizers, which means disassembly. It's fine, it's a weaponizer. Who cares what parts forming on these? Here, with the torso block, you just flip these bits up, like that. Fold this down like this. And then you just spin the waist around, twist at the thighs, and then you just bring down the feet. You want to bring down the chest panel, and then you want to bring back down the back panel, and then you just rotate this whole center section around. Keep this bar down, and then you just bring in these flaps, and they'll peg in around that. And then you just bring in these arms, you just twist them around whichever orientation you would like. Completely depends on you, but you're technically supposed to have these posts face outwards and these down. And then when pegging in these the shoulders into here, you'll probably want to put your finger under here so that the white part doesn't fold in, because it can be a bit of a pain if it folds in there. There we go. And there you have Blue Bolts in her robot mode. Now, for an original character that, I mean, didn't really exist, considering this was just a gun, I think this is pretty nifty. And as you can see, getting into the details here, it's a pretty nice streamlined bot. There's some hollowness here, but that's just due to the transformation, obviously. So that I'm fine with. The only bit of hollowness that isn't necessary is this. That is pretty ugly, I would say, but it's not too big a deal on essentially a bonus, considering what you're really paying for is Ultra Magnus and Optimus. But that is certainly something I would have liked to not see on a Haslab. As you can see, she's got some lovely detail work here. Nice mechanical detailing. Not too busy, of course, but keeping it interesting. Got riveting on the back here. Nice little details, 5mm port. Some detailing mostly for the gun mode on the back of her head. And of course, some nice panel lining here. Most of her is just purely color blocked by plastic, with the exception of course, the paint on the face here, with the lovely dark blue face mask, as well as the beautiful gold eyes and the red crest. And the crest and entire head sculpt here is a nice reference to her original character from Beast Wars, where she was a repaint of Air Razor. But nice little bird motif there. Nice reference. The only other real paint here is the arms here. These are cast in the lighter color blue here, but painted dark blue. Most likely just since they're on a different mold. But the rest of this is all just in plastic colors, which is fine. I didn't expect this to be premium painted. And you would probably not want this to be painted, considering how often you need to disassemble her constantly for her weaponizing gimmick. Now, for these missiles that you have to set aside, they do have multiple places to go. Of course, the most obvious is, since this is a weaponizer, 5mm ports all over the place. You just put a missile there. If you want, this also works. You can place it in there. But the intended storage is that these little fins on the missile will just peg in right there on her back. And there you go. Now just store the missiles there. Now for some size comparisons, here she is next to some just average deluxes. As you can see, just kind of average deluxe height. And of course, since she has the whole weaponizer gimmick, being a weaponizer means she can swap out her limbs with anyone you want. She has both the arms and legs as detachable units. Now going into articulation on Blue Bolts, she has a ball joint for the head. Can do a 360 if you want. Nice and expressive. Barely looks up and down, unfortunately. She does have, of course, just a 360, since these are 5mm ports. outwards, kind of smacks into her face. You got a swivel above the elbow, which also detaches. You've got over 90 degrees on the elbow here, on a hinge. She does have a swivel at the waist, 360, and interestingly enough, she does have a backwards ab crunch, most likely due to how she's constructed. Her waist does also pop off, which is interesting. Part of the weaponizing gimmick, I guess, because this isn't really necessary for any of the modes in this. Now, she does have full range at the hips here. They go pretty much as far as you need them to. Forward and back. Of course, swivel at the thigh here. And very, very deep knees, since they do need to fold in on themselves. And you can always bring these in if you want to cover the knees. And then she has a slight ankle tilt here. It's not too much, but I appreciate that they at least included it. And then the toes, for the sake of transformation, can go up and down. Pretty well articulated figure for pretty much kind of just like an add-on to this set. So I'd say it's pretty nice. And on a side note, it is a little bit funny to me that this is technically the least problematic figure out of this set. Alright, getting into transformation with Ultra Magnus. First thing you're going to want to do is just start popping these bits off here and just peeling away the trailer. Just peeling it back. You're going to want to take this. Oh, there you go. You're going to want to take this and just fold it up top, lay it flush, and then pretty much all this at this point is being held on by these white bits that are slid in here on a rail. So you're going to just want to slide them out like that, and slide it out like that, and there you go. And with the rocket boosters and wheels out, this can pretty much be its own unit if you really want it to be. Now, setting that aside, we're going to continue on with the legs here. Going to want to bring these down, flip these out, and you're going to want to just split these. Now, getting into this, you're going to want to take this flap, unpeg it, and flip it up like this, which frees up the heel here. That is on a rail that you can now slide out like that, and then flip this up, and now you're going to take this and flip it back in, and then you're going to unfold all of this, twist it towards the inside here, and then you just have this post go into this port like that, and then just fold this in on itself. Then just bring down the kneecap. Take this little bit and fold it on the inside. Then you just take the thighs and flip them out. And then bring this down. Then you just do that on the second side. And there you go, you have the two legs, which you will then combine right here on this clip. Like so. Now, getting into Ultra Magnus here, you want to unpeg the bumper here from these ports right here on the sides. And then you're going to just take this and it will hinge up on a double hinge here like this, and it will just cover the cab like that. And then you can pretty much just bring this in and it'll tab in right there. And thankfully they did account for the chrome and left the slots unpainted so that you can tab it in firmly without worrying about chipping. Now, getting into this whole section here, untab these little blue bits on the sides here, which are pretty much just holding this whole thing together. And then you're just gonna wiggle this And that's going to bring this up like this. Now for this section, you're going to want to split this like this. And once you have it lined up like this in a V shape, you're going to just take it and press it down. And this will take quite a bit of force. It is a bit scary, but there you go. And I do recommend just trying to palm or press all of the pressure on the center where this post is. There you go. Now you just take that and get it out of the way. Alright, you just want to fold these up as well. And just kind of get that out of the way. Now you take these wheels and you just slot them in right here. Bring the arms down here. Now you're just going to take these, swing them around, and this will tab into this blue section here, like so. Like that. And then you're just going to rotate these around. And that is pretty much the arms done already for him. Bring down this flap. And this will slot into the chrome here. This unfortunately is still painted, so far there hasn't been any chipping on mine, but be wary that that might cause chipping. We'll slot it right there. Now for this whole backpack, thankfully it's not that complicated. The instructions make it seem way more complicated than it really needs to be. You pretty much just take these sections right here, make sure they are up like this. Then you just want to swing around the backpack and make sure the wings are on the inside with the jetpack sticking out. And then these pegs will go into here, and you pretty much just accordion these joints downward like this while pressing these forwards. And then this blue bit will slot into these on the inside here, while this just tabs in on the inside here. Press it in like that. Press these down. Like that. Then you just take the blue bits and they will peg down like that. And there you go. It's extremely straightforward in person when you have it. The instructions make it very confusing on how you need to accordion this. And then the last step here for this bit is bring down this, and then you just take this and rotate this panel around with the head, bring it back down, and then this will just peg back in. There are these tabs here that are probably difficult to see. They have tiny stress marks on them. I am a bit concerned about them, but so far they've been fine. They just slot in right here. They don't seem to be all that necessary though, so even if they do eventually maybe break, they thankfully aren't really doing much. But you slap that back in, and then you just bring his legs back in here. Just take his legs here, and they are on a rail system, as you can see, with the L shape, and they will just slide into these slots right here. You just line that up, push it in, and there we go. There you have Ultra Magnus in his robot mode. As you can see, he's a very tall bot, so I need to have him at a pretty far distance. But bringing him in, pretty much looks like the original, as expected. It's obviously got a backpack going on there. No electronics here, so there's more space here for engineering that you'll see later on. As you can see, his legs are very long. It's a very wonky bot. Now, just a quick note, a lot of people have gotten theirs and it is yellowed out of the box, or at least like off-white in certain sections. Apparently there's a coating on the white sections that for some copies just isn't there. Mine thankfully turned out fine, but apparently there's quite a few copies out there that are experiencing yellowing issues not related to sunlight. That is a problem. Again, I really hope that if they do another batch to do the fixes for Prime, Hopefully Ultra Magnus will get fixed as well with this, because that is unfortunate. Mine, thankfully, is fine. But getting into this, you can see he's got lovely just paint work here. Nice contrast of silver, blue, just against the dark gray chest plate there. Nice detail there. He's got a nice chrome Autobot symbol on his forehead. The eyes are also a nice chrome gold, although they're a bit small. And the face there is also painted white. Not a plastic color, it is actually painted white. If I had one complaint about the face, I do wish it had a closer look to the actual cartoon with the larger eyes. He does kind of just come off as a bit of a more generic face with this. Of course, due to just his engineering and combination, got the hollow chest. We'll get back to it in a bit. A lot of his color ends up being plastic color breakup, with most of this being unpainted plastic color. Of course, the paint from the wheels coming through. He does, however, have paint on the shins, also coming in from vehicle mode with the nice red and yellow, the Totally Not Mercedes logo. Nice silver paint here against the dark gray. And then the rest of this is all just plastic coloring, even for the feet. Now, just from pictures, one change I found kind of odd. I'm not sure why they did this. The original had much longer squares for both the red and yellow section. There were more squares, blocks, and they were longer. For some reason, they shortened them down to where the red is barely visible on his shins. That's a small little nitpick, but I do think it's a bit of a odd thing to change. And then, of course, you got the thrusters on the back here. Got nice thruster detailing here. And of course, due to the nature of the design, extremely hollow legs. But hey, they have some nice tuggy detailing on the inside. And blue bolts, thankfully, does play a part in helping fill this out. Also, the chrome does end up just being kind of stored away on his back here. Thankfully, despite the extremely large backpack back here, the heels do support him, so it doesn't fall back, and the ratchets hold him up pretty well. Speaking of ratchets, getting into articulation, he does of course have a ball jointed head, 360, although unfortunately no cutout in the back. Very unfortunate. I really wish that they would start cutting out the backs of these so that they could actually look up. There's literally no reason not to do it. The arms can in theory go 360. Obviously the wings will stop them, but they're not limited here. Those are just on mushroom pegs. This is on a hinge outward to 90 degrees. And then of course if you untab it, you can get the full range. You then have a dedicated swivel above the elbow, a elbow joint to 90 degrees, and then he does have a wrist swivel, which is on a ball joint, and he's got a hinged fingers and thumb, and all the fingers are just together. Now, due to the transformation and combination, unfortunately, no waist on this. Understandable given how it works. Now, the legs have ratchets in them, outward fully to 90 degrees, and full range forward, pretty much as far as you can really need from this design. You do have a swivel here, and then a very deep knee bend, which can technically go well past 90, but obviously everything then starts clashing over here. Now getting down here, you have the ankles, which do have rockers, but they do not go forward and back. He's well articulated. He has all the joints that you would want out of him, but unfortunately you can't really make use of them all that well, just due to the odd proportions of this guy. He can strike a few good poses, but you're definitely going to be fighting the very odd proportions on this guy. But otherwise, I say I like him. He's definitely the weaker bot of the set, unfortunately. He very much sacrifices the most for the sake of the combination, but he also does the most for the combination, so it's fine. He does essentially just become boots and armor, so I would say for that he's pretty good. He's what I expected from the original. He's a very wonky Ultra Magnus. Now, in terms of gimmicks with Ultra Magnus, he does have a few. He does, of course, have a matrix in here, same as Optimus, and they even painted the back of the little matrix chamber in here, which is nice. But as you can see, that is just the same as Optimus's, where it's a very light green plastic painted over in a gunmetal gray, and then you can just slot that back in. Now, interestingly, you don't have to have this chasm here. If you bring in blue bolts, she does actually fill in pretty much all of the hollow areas on this guy, which is a pretty cool gimmick that they introduced with this. Now, you just take off her arms and legs here, and you just bring those up here. You will need to bring in her head, essentially turning her back into her weapon mode. Now, you will take this 5mm port, will go into the 5mm post in here, and you essentially just plug her in like this, upside down, bring it down, and then you just close up his chest, and that will store blue bolts inside and fill in that chasm that he had. As for the limbs of Blue Bolt will fill in the legs of Ultra Magnus. You're going to want to bring in the thighs at a 90-degree angle, bring these down. You're just going to want to make sure that the leg with this post is going into the post down here. Then the thigh is going to plug in on the gray section right here, and then have the gray bit line up right there. There you go. You're going to want to do that on both sides. And then you can technically store these gun arms as well on the legs here. You're going to want to take these and just kind of angle them downwards, inwards like this, and then kind of just plug this arm in right into this port, and it'll pretty much just rest like that. And there you go. Pretty much you can store all of Blue Bolts inside of Ultra Magnus and fill in all of Ultra Magnus's hollow bits. Now, Blue Bolts also, of course, can become weaponry for Ultra Magnus. All you have to do is just take this white post and then go into this port here, and there you go, he's got his weapon. And you can do that on both sides. And then, of course, you can give Ultra Magnus the combined weapon. These ports will go inside of here in the shoulders, and you pretty much just want to line that up, and then you just get the thumb here, and it will plug into a port right here, like so. That is the port I'm talking about, and there you go. Ultra Magnus has a combined form gun that he can dual wield. Considering that they made an entire figure out of this, I would say that I'm quite impressed with how well it works. One last feature is that, of course, you can bring in the stand, and then you will want to attach this separate part, and unlike Optimus, you'll want to take this and turn it the opposite direction. With this guy, the ports that hold him are on the inside, so you will just take this. Both posts will go into both ports there on that flap, and there you go. You will be able to securely keep him on his stand. You don't have to worry about him falling over at all. If you want any aerial poses, as you can see, you can do aerial poses. Now for some size comparisons. Here's an average Generations Voyager. Here he is, of course, with his partner. Here he is next to a Dinobot, still pretty massive compared to them. And here he is next to an average Masterpiece Optimus. As you can see, he's still about a head taller, pretty much Masterpiece scaled. Here he is next to my extremely beat up original Scourge, absolutely dwarfed by him. And then probably the closest comparison I can get for size would be the that both of these figures in the set are essentially same size as a 3-0 figure. Alright, so closing out this review, I would say that, I mean, this figure is still pretty good. Lived up to what I expected from him, but I wouldn't say it's an amazing figure. Now granted, Optimus was just so good that this kind of just comes off as a bit eh. I understand that most of the sacrifices with this are just for the combined mode. It's unfortunate, but it's the reality that this guy just does so much for the combined mode that he was bound to end up like this. The design is also kind of just what it is. You can't really overcome it much. I think Ultra Magnus is the weakest figure of the set, including Blue Bolts here. But I would still say he's really good. He still gives me that fun, chunky playability vibe. The plastic is all good, very solid. Some of it honestly feels better than even Prime. I think the only thing that feels thin is this little chest plate here. Blue Bolts, also, no problems with quality or anything on her. The colors are fine. The tolerances are all good on her. I don't really have any problems with QC on either of these, thankfully. I think Blue Bolts is a very surprisingly good figure. She's a bit overlooked in this set as just a throwaway gun, essentially, for Ultra Magnus. But I honestly think she might be the most fun figure to just mess with and pose around. I wasn't expecting that, but she very much is a fun one. But this will probably be it for today. Stay tuned for my next video, which will be Omega Prime. Please feel free to comment, drop a like, and follow me on Instagram if you want to, where I will be posting pictures of this and other figures. And oftentimes I will be posting stuff on there way before I review it. Thank you for watching. Have a good day. See ya.